What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and our Movement Play of the Week. This week for Week 17 of the 2022 National Football League season. And this will be the end of the road for the 2022 season, as in the last week of the season, I released my all-movement team along with my end of the season movement awards, which culminates in the mover of the year. Last year awarded to Jonathan Taylor. This year, you guys will have to hold out and get a little bit of anxiety in regards to who I'm going to name next week, my 10th annual mover of the year. But before we get into Week 17's play, I want to talk about the obvious elephant in the room in the American football world. You know, things like a movement breakdown or things like the sport itself take very little priority or should be placed very little emphasis in our entire thought and headspace and in our heart space too, when we see that which what unfolded last night on Monday Night Football for Damar Hamlin of the Buffalo Bills against the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, the most scary situation that we could possibly imagine in sport. In sports, then, obviously seem to take a little bit less really priority, like I mentioned earlier. And there are really no words to say to really capture how those across the country and across the world are likely feeling today, myself included. So my thoughts and my prayers go to Damar Hamlin, again, of the Buffalo Bills. And obviously hoping that with all of my heart that he not only pulls through, but ends up living an abundant and prosperous life. You know, when you have players and you work with players, work alongside of players very closely and intimately as I do, and you see them go through certain scenarios and situations and circumstances that seem almost unbelievable at the time. You know, you start to see who they are as humans, and you start to realize that they're more than just numbers, and they're more than just a spot on the roster. And that's the thing that I hope that people are able to take from that which what occurred and unfolded last night, that these players are humans first and foremost. And I know it's cliche to say now after the fact, but when you really try to put things in perspective, I hope that those that are listening out there, as well as then the energy that goes along with that which what unfolded last night, really helps to put those things back in perspective. Sport means very, very little in the whole scheme of things when we are comparing it to someone's life and someone's future. So again, my thoughts and prayers go out to Damar Hamlin. Now, when we get into today's play, now as we kind of hit the reset button and get into that, which what Christian McCaffrey did on Sunday, we can look at some of the things that Christian McCaffrey has been over the years. Just a number of years back, I want to say 2019, I featured him in my all movement team, and he was very close to becoming my mover of the year. It would have been the year that I believe Lamar Jackson was awarded my mover of the year. So it took an extraordinary performance by a truly special mover in Lamar Jackson to keep Christian McCaffrey from being awarded my mover of the year. But over the last number of years, CMC here has been a little bit banged and dinged up, and he hasn't truly been himself. He hasn't been able to find his truly adaptable self that really was his calling cards, not only at Stanford, but then when he entered the league and really begun to do some things in a truly extraordinary fashion that I don't know if anyone else across the National Football League is truly capable of doing. Now, you have other receiving backs in the league, obviously the Alvin Kamaras, the Saquon Barkleys, the Josh Jacobs on the other side of the field here from Christian McCaffrey on Sunday. But when Christian McCaffrey is able to be schemed into doing things that actually elevate and lift up his skill set, truly special things can unfold and emerge, like what we see here in this respective game. And it took, obviously, him finding his way mid-season onto the San Francisco 49ers roster in order to do so. So let's get into this week's play. Like I said, hopefully we can keep ourselves in the right frame of mind as we do this, because there are going to be a number of talking points that we can look at here with what Christian McCaffrey accomplished on this screen pass. And obviously, every team has this sort of screen pass in their offensive playbook and in their arsenal. However, not everyone has the number 23 here in white, gold, and red, like the San Francisco 49ers do. And like Kyle Shanahan has at his disposal. And we see some of the things right off the bat here in live time, even though now NFL Red Zone has slowed it down. Shout out to Dustin Perry there doing his thing, getting a little psyched up for his guy. But hopefully you can see some things. If you've been here at Football Beyond the Stats and our movement play of the week, you're probably already picking up some things that I'm going to attempt to highlight here through this week 17 movement play of the week. Let's watch it one more time through here as NFL Red Zone goes slow motion and shows you the replay of this before we go in our own slow motion at these various angles. And what we see right off the bat is Christian McCaffrey's abundance, which I have said before, precedes his adaptability, or in ecological terms, his degeneracy within his movement system that ends up preceding his dexterity. What is the degeneracy? Having numerous strategies to solve similar unfolding movement problems. What is the dexterity? Again, according to Nikolai Bernstein, 1996, the ability to solve any emerging movement problem in any situation, in any condition. And if you've been here before at Football Beyond the Stats, that won't be your first time hearing those definitions. So let's get into 50% speed. Obviously, when we think about who Christian McCaffrey is, if you don't know anything about him, you probably aren't aware, but you might become aware just from this one highlight as to what his movement skill is about. It isn't just about an elusive nature, this truly agile, juke 'em, make 'em miss ability, but it's also in him being able to find a number of different movement strategies and solutions of solving problems. The abundance in his skill set is truly the calling card. People will point to his linear speed, which I actually don't think is featured all that often or shouldn't be when we look at how he does what he does. It's more so in him being able to coordinate, control, and organize the right, and I put right in air quotes there for a reason, the most functional, the most purposeful, the most practical, the most behaviorally fit movement solution to fit the emerging problem. This is who he is. In his ability to be able to run between the tackles or outside the tackles, or then to take plays like this, both in the passing game with screen passes and the like, plays that are taking place behind the line of scrimmage where he can pick and choose his way through traffic, or when he gets in open space, running routes from the running back position, but like a receiver. He's as receiver-like in his route running as anyone playing the running back position that maybe we've ever seen in the NFL. But right off the bat here, what makes him so special in these screen pass situations? I want to highlight his true ownership of his movement, not only the path, but also his gas pedal and what strategy and solution he's attempting to come up with and organize to fit the needs. Look at him right off the bat. When he catches the ball, we see the glance back into the traffic. Look at that. I mean, I don't know if any other back, potentially an Alvin Kamara, I guess when we were to look maybe a year, 2 years, and 3 years ago, we might see an Alvin Kamara doing it. We might have seen a Le'Veon Bell doing it 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I don't know if anyone else playing the game at the running back position right now is going to show this level of patience, this level of coordination and control, this attunement, this sensitivity to truly what is specifying, as we will see here from Christian McCaffrey. So just really cool, special stuff from 23 when he gets this. Look at this. How many guys when the bullets are firing and you're in the midst of this chaos and you have a guy, let's see if I can get my telestrator out. You have a defender who you're essentially one-on-one with right now, even though McCaffrey is patiently waiting to get his own guys obviously entering this space, right? Because he knows that if he does so, the chasing defenders and this guy that he has 1v1, and I can't see what number he is, I think maybe 30 or 33 for the Raiders, that guy will be taken care of if you allow your guys to get in space with you. But very few running backs in this situation, like they're going to be quick to hit the gas pedal. Very few are going to behave like Christian McCaffrey does. But this shows the level of his movement skill. And he is rewarded immediately with getting his own guy, number 60. Sorry, I don't know his name. Not a connoisseur of offensive line play, as I think you guys know. But this is a really great block. Obviously, a special effort, too, on his part to coordinate and control a movement solution, which functionally fits this problem. Number 60, that is. So McCaffrey awards him or rewards him by getting him on the poster alongside of him and giving him a nudge, because remember, these are shared affordances. We are behaving in a way where we are perceiving how someone else can behave. That someone else might be your opponent. In this case, what we find obviously here, again, I think it's number 33, or it's one's teammate, right? And so McCaffrey is behaving in a way, and it's not just about this immediate local movement interaction that's unfolding and that's guiding and channeling his movement behavior, but it's in all these other interactions, right? Chasing defenders, look at them all, okay? But also teammates entering the space. This shows the dimensional levels of Christian McCaffrey's movement skill set. It really does. And I don't want it to be lost upon anyone who's listening in here, because this is attunement. This is sensitivity to the specifying information that one can pick up, which one is going to utilize to regulate one's own actions, right? Christian McCaffrey in these situations and scenarios is good as it gets. And he then becomes one with this movement problem. And we see it actually occur here as he patiently waits. 60 enters the space, gets this block, and then in a tightly coupled fashion, we see 23 make his cutting action. Look, we see this plant and cut. That is, like, if we watch that now, and I've often mentioned over time here at Football Beyond the Stats that the cutting actions, the movement actions themselves, the biomechanics, might not be that which what would be maybe lifted up if they were cutting on a cone or during a traditional change of direction, which people masquerade as an agility drill, right? But most of those activities aren't really involving evasive agility at all. But sometimes those biomechanics don't look like they would in the drill. But Christian McCaffrey here actually kind of does to a certain degree. Now imagine if 33 in this interaction where McCaffrey's making this cut were actually to be a cone that he's moving in a slalom-like fashion, right? In a change of direction cutting drill that you might see at the NFL Combine or in most training environments. Christian McCaffrey's biomechanics do sometimes resemble that which what we would find. But it's not in those activities that one would use, at least from my perspective, in order to facilitate those functional biomechanics. It's in Christian McCaffrey's attunement and its adaptability of those biomechanical cutting actions. Like, think of how he's acting here. He's acting in a very ownership type of way in space and letting things come to him so he can coordinate and control this action in the right time and in the right way. Watch as soon as he makes this cut. Like, he knows 33 is going to be met with a world of hurt in a moment, or potentially could be, even though 60 only gets the glancing blow at him. 33 has lifted his feet off, and obviously McCaffrey, these are the biomechanics that I was pointing to. Okay. Like I said, Christian McCaffrey, his movement mechanics, his motor actions do sometimes look like what we would find in a technical model of cutting actions for this angle of cut. And sorry, my dogs are actually playing in the background. So if you guys can hear that. So I'm talking this angle of cut. Like if we were to imagine a cone being here, let me just put a stamp on it, right? Like if we were to put this, if we were to put a cone here and see him cutting at it, and we were to remove, say, these two individuals in this interaction, like we could see him behaving in a rote repetition, rep after rep fashion in a highly decontextualized or isolated activity. So Christian McCaffrey actually isn't helping my argument here with his cutting actions all that much, but we have plenty of evidence which would show that this is about the coordination and control of his movement actions in relation to when, where, how he's cutting. And then obviously, like I said, this angle of his cut, right? So this cut back inside, but watch what guides the coordination of this cut. Look at where he's already looking to. Okay. And again, we don't have an eye tracking device on him. We can't see exactly what he's looking at or for, but we can speculate now. Again, perceive to act, act to perceive. The two are intertwined and interwoven. And when Christian McCaffrey's in the open field, nobody better at doing it. And we see that immediately. Look at him, pick up the specifying information. What's specifying information right now? Most likely 64, most likely whatever number this is. He is looking to and through and beyond, at least in my speculation, while also simultaneously feeling where threats might be coming from. So I talked about this a few weeks ago when the highly attuned, highly adaptable runners in space, could be a wide receiver, could be a tight end, and in this case, it could be a running back, particularly the running backs, start to feel like they have eyes in the back of their head to a certain degree because they develop this kinesthetic sense and proprioceptive awareness as to what might be back there. If you've been in these situations and scenarios, you end up kind of picking up that energy of what's coming behind you. And again, I would speculate that Christian McCaffrey definitely has that because we see it channel his behaviors. Let's not lose this little adaptable hurdle step over his own guy. Okay. He has to change, and his movement behaviors then have to change. They have to be adjusted. They have to be controlled differently based on his offensive lineman laying there. These are all nuances to me, guys and gals, of the integrated movement problem solving process. What affordance are you picking up, and how is it serving to channel your movement actions? Look at the change in his step to get up and over number 60 so he doesn't actually step on him or his step isn't short. And this is all, guys, with a number of Raiders breathing down his neck. Okay. Super impressive layered stuff here. And he is just sequencing these movement behaviors together in a highly adaptable fashion. Again, let's look at him move from one local movement problem to the next, even though these are, again, are all intertwined and strung together. Look where he might be looking. Okay. Now, is he just looking at his two teammates there, or is he looking beyond in a Gibson type of fashion? Let's remember, skilled perception gets wider, longer, deeper, and richer. The more skilled perceivers and behaviors are able to fill in those details with their perceptual pickup, their information detection. So he's likely not only just picking up behavior here and behavior here, right? But he's likely picking up that which lies beyond, because that which lies beyond is going to channel how he might have to behave in the near future. Again, super layered stuff from Christian McCaffrey. And he gives this glance. Now, typically, we would see a Christian McCaffrey especially in this type of scenario and situation when he executes this cut coming up. Like, very few players use their blockers as well as Christian McCaffrey does. If we're talking about within traffic or outside of in more open space. Now, this is still traffic in open space, right? There's a lot of shit happening here. There's a lot of traffic. I would put Christian McCaffrey on the same level as, say, maybe right now with Josh Jacobs, who's doing it at the highest of levels, as well as Nick Chubb, who over the last number of years has done it at the highest levels. Using one's own teammates to use as your information that you detect to channel your subsequent actions. Okay. And so we see McCaffrey here using those guys, trying to let them get into the space, whether it's to pick up the chasing defenders who are threats behind. But I actually think McCaffrey was trying to get someone, bide someone enough time to get out here to get this next guy, right? But that next guy isn't got. So McCaffrey has to get him himself. Luckily, he's plenty equipped to do so. And now at this point, when 64 enters the space back towards him, obviously McCaffrey has to channel his behaviors accordingly. And he starts looking for opportunities. He's already picked up, let's see, he's already picked up this dude right here, right? And sorry, it's kind of off the screen yet at this point. And he's trying to find his next affordance. He's perceiving and selecting upon what affordance he's then going to act upon. Typically, what we would see from a McCaffrey, if he had the time to do it, he's not going to resort to, and we can see him trying to veer back to the inside of this cat. Okay. And we see him change his movement behaviors. But as those interpersonal distances change, because McCaffrey didn't quite have the space afforded to him, he has to resort to this more strength and power-oriented movement strategy. Turns his body, left hip and left shoulder, protecting the ball, and runs to, into, and through this wannabe tackler. Okay. So talk about stringing together abundant movement strategies and solutions. Now, this isn't the most optimal world for Christian McCaffrey, who's not the biggest guy in the world, nor does he have the running style that is about this strength and power-oriented game. He's not Derrick Henry or AJ Dillon or somebody like that who really resorts to that in their movement strategies. However, we have seen Christian McCaffrey behave in this way in the past. Again, maybe a Nick Chubb would do this as well, who can make you miss and equally has the capability of running into and through you. So Christian McCaffrey has shown that, and you can see him already bracing, even though he would have loved to go left or right. But based on the affordances present here, that opportunity isn't afforded. So he has to go through, but he turns and shifts his body. He uses that same affordance now that he perceived, selected, and is now acting upon to channel his behaviors. He turns his body, protects the ball, guards himself. And so if they both end up going down, it doesn't cause a fumble because he's coming in with a lot of speed. He doesn't want that guy to be able to either knock the ball out, and he just keeps his feet churning. Okay. And he starts to do this heel kick up, and I just did it like you guys can see my whole body. I know you can't, right? But we see what McCaffrey is doing here now with his feet in order to get out of this tackle attempt from what would be number 21, I believe. And we saw that last year with our mover of the year, Jonathan Taylor. We've seen it before a lot with Nick Chubb, who does it. Christian McCaffrey, very highly attuned, again, to various affordances that are present for him at that moment in time. And then we see him, again, really patient, owning and controlling his movement behaviors in a highly functional, very attuned, very adaptable fashion. And rightfully so, he's pumped up because the score is 27-27, less than 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And the San Francisco 49ers would love nothing more than to win this game and put themselves in a position to potentially get the first seed in the NFC playoffs. So now we see it at this other angle, and it's going to go slow motion because I also have us in slow motion. So let's just get some confirmation as to that which what we already speculated upon. And we see some of the things that I've already mentioned, and I'm just going to hit us pause a few times because I think we've already seen everything that we need to see from that other perspective, of that other viewpoint. But hopefully you guys are all able to connect as an outside observer as to the experience. And I said that we already had everything that we needed, but now you see it in up close. We can see more of a perspective as to where Christian McCaffrey might be looking, when he is looking there, and how it's channeling his movement actions. Again, we would love to have true eye tracking glasses on, or at least get his perspective as to what he was picking up and when he was picking it up. But the best that we can do is capture this experience by putting ourselves in his problem solving story and speculating upon what he's looking at and when he's looking at it, how he's picking it up. And again, like I said there, my old friend Dustin Perry going crazy for his guy now. But as you guys can see, Christian McCaffrey is as good as it comes when he's on in these types of scenarios, these types of movement problems. And remember, I say these types because no two problems are ever the same, thus neither are any two solutions. So it's about finding the most functional movement strategy and solution that fits in a functional fashion to the unfolding problem. It should obviously, or it should be pretty obvious here as to how and why we might be able to set up learning environments that give one exposure and experience to these types of problems, right? Get guys in open space, let them find their way through traffic, help them to become more attuned and sensitive to the specifying information of not only opponents, remember posture, velocity, interpersonal distance, bearing angle, layers in the movement problem, right? How are these layers and orientation of one's opponents unfolding? But then also, like we saw from Christian McCaffrey today, including teammates into the mix that are going to enter the space as well. Teammates that also have affordances to act that we want to perceive and act upon with our own movement behaviors. So you can probably tell as to why I wanted to end the 2022 National Football League season, which has been a doozy here at Football Beyond the Stats, why I wanted to end it with this play, because there were a number of layers there that I would love to put a capstone on this season with. So for Football Beyond the Stats and another NFL season here, obviously, if you like what you saw, give me the thumbs up, share it with your people. Give me a subscribe, hit the subscribe button. You guys know the deal. Comment in the bottom section below if you'd like. If there are questions, thoughts, ideas, things that you want to hear me to discuss heading forward, definitely do so. I love to interact with y'all. And I want to make another mention. Make sure that you look out next week for my year end, the 10th annual All Movement Team, my Movement Awards, and my Mover of the Year. So for Sean Mishka, Football Beyond the Stats, and our Movement Play of the Week, this has been another season in the books.